Let's go to Benjamin. He's in California. And Benjamin, you're on Free Talk Live via Skype.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, I hear you guys talking about World War II and its economic impact. And I think there is something that you guys have not touched on yet, which is because during World War II, people stopped, I don't want to say wasting, but they focused all of their resources and energies into being more productive than they had before because of the war effort.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of factories built for the war effort. So coming out of World War II, people still had this being thrifty and economical with how they spent the resources, and you had a lot of factories that could easily be retooled over for standard market rather than just for the war. Now, I don't think that is a reason for war. I don't think we're better off economically as the world for the war, but I just think that's another aspect to it.
It's something to point out.
Do you think Mark's right, though, in his claim that the U.S. is better off because of World War II?
I don't know. Better off is a weird thing to say. In one way, yes, the United States was better off coming out of World War II because we were automatically the big dog. No one could compete with us because of the position we had been in during World War II. Now, it's sort of like coming out of World War II, we definitely had the biggest slice of the pie. The problem is we might have had an even bigger slice of just a simply even larger pie had there been no World War II.
Right, because what if people could take the money they earn and allocate it in the way they want to? I mean, we all know that you get to spend when you get to spend your money and decide how to save it or give it away or whatever, that you do a better job than some disconnected government bureaucrat. Well, and if all, however many 100 million Americans there might have been there at that time, they'd have been doing more with what they had.
But you're acting like the World War II didn't promote equality and therefore to some extent freedom. The fact is World War II brought into the marketplace women who had largely not been in the working marketplace and didn't have the power to own property and a variety of other things. Let's not forget how African Americans' positions changed. They moved out of the fields, away from sharecroppers, and towards factories at this point. And they also were brought into the greater economy of the United States. And so, this changed things too. You don't get to say a future where you get to pick what works and what doesn't work. You have to look at 1939, and you need to push that forward. And I don't think that the world of 1939 to 1949 is going to be that much better for the United States because of the restrictions of freedoms of people that had in this country that would not have been, would not have melted away as quickly if it hadn't been for World War II.
So obviously, had the changes that took place spurred on by World War II taken place minus World War II, everybody would be better off.
Everybody would. I've never argued that point.
Right. But the fact remains in that those changes might not have taken place for many, many decades had World War II not happened. I tend to look at these kind of things as, if you look at biology and evolution, there are traumatic things that happen in the environment that spur on great change. Evolutionary biologists will talk about how, there's really not a lot of change, and then some kind of dramatic event will happen that causes biology to change rapidly in order to adapt to the new circumstances. And I look at something like a World War II as a catastrophe and a tragedy, but it did spur on change to a great degree. I don't know that everybody would be better off because of it, that everybody is better off because of it, but you can't ignore that there are aspects that show we are better off.
Ben, it sounds, I don't know if this is actually what you're saying or not, but it sounds like you're saying that World War II brought the U.S. out of the Great Depression. And that's what a lot of people that say that World War II was good for the economy are saying.
Stand by. We can continue the conversation here in moments. 855-453. You can take control and bring up what you want. It's Free Talk Live. We go back to Benjamin. He is on the line, calling from California. And Benjamin, you're pointing out that in the absence, or that with World War II, you're looking at some of the aftermath and some of the things that happened. Was pointed out that maybe women wouldn't have been so prolific in the workplace were it not for them essentially being thrown into it to some extent during World War II. And you gave some examples of some of the changes that may have possibly have been accelerated by World War II. Of course, we don't know what the world would have looked like had World War II or World War I not have occurred,
or the Spanish-American War, or the Civil War,
right? And we don't know
any of the others.
We don't know what would have happened with women and blacks and all of that stuff. But as you pointed out, it's possible that those things could have advanced. We don't know. All we know is the damage that was done, and we can point to certain people that benefited because of the damage that was done. But ultimately, we can't ever know the unseen, and that could be the tremendously larger amount of wealth that we could have created had those resources not been burned up, had those people not been incinerated, or shot to death, who might have actually come up with the next great invention, or the next great 25 inventions, or the best way to sell those inventions. Who knows what kind of skills the world lost because all of those men died in that war. So it's completely incalculable, and I think that's why I don't like hearing this idea that, oh, well, look at all these benefits from World War II. Well, the thing is, we don't know what we missed out on, and I think that's the most important thing to say.
Well, no, absolutely. You don't know what we missed out on, the unseen. But I think it is unfair. I hate saying unfair about this kind of thing, but it's unfair to not point out what little good came out of it.
It's
kind
disingenuous,
the silver lining.
And it makes one look like a zealot that doesn't listen to the truth. That's what the problem is. Ian.
What do you mean the truth? I'm not denying that somebody's business did better because of World War II. I don't think I've denied that. But the truth is prosperity comes from peace.
Rights
overall.
were destroyed during World War II. Japanese Americans were interned. And the President of the United States knew that he could get away with anything as long as he said, there's a threat.
What about all those people that were interned? What would have they have created?
I'll give you a great example about an impact of what happened with the Japanese being interned. Until the Japanese were interned during World War II, they held a lot of the farms here in California. They ran farms. They were doing all that kind of stuff. When they got interned, the government said, oh, crap, we need that food, and there's nobody to run the farms. So they brought up people from Mexico to run those farms for the Japanese. And that is one reason we have the current dynamic of immigrants coming from Mexico, is because of the internment of the Japanese, who are running their farms perfectly fine here in California. That's just continued from that point. So there are all sorts of unseen consequences from people's actions that we're still kind of dealing with today.
Further, I'd like to point out that what was occurring in 1939 wasn't peace, Ian. I agree with you that peace brings prosperity. I think stability also brings prosperity, but there's a problem with stability. When you have a stability of empires, and that's what occurred prior to World War I. Take a look. Basically, the British Empire was destroyed by the two world wars. Those people in India have self-governance, and Pakistan and these other countries have self-governance. And you seem to advocate for self-governance, especially in the case of New Hampshire. These things basically change. It's not peace when somebody says who's rich and who's poor and who gets to win and who gets to lose. We had a world of empires prior to the world wars, and those world wars to some extent are responsible for the changes that occurred. These empires were spent dry, and they had to divest themselves of these countries. These people didn't want to fight for foreigners in their wars. They were sick of it, and there were some changes as a result there too. That's all I'm saying, Ian, is you got to look at these things in a historically accurate context rather than just picking up dogma and running with it. Because no one's going to believe you if you just take dogma and run with it.
Okay. I think it's fine to look at what actually happened and say, oh, well, here were some of the benefits of what happened, and I see that that's what you're doing. But I think it's I don't like the way that it's put out there to suggest that well, look at all these great things that came from World War II.
I didn't say all
what we
these
don't
great
know
things.
is what all the great things we could have had if we didn't have the war. That's my only point here. Anything else, Benjamin?
Just that I know myself and my family are looking forward to meeting you guys when you visit San Jose here at the end of the week for the Bitcoin conference.
Yep.
And looking forward to that.
Thanks, Ben. We'll see you at the Bitcoin 2013 coming up here this weekend in San Jose. Bitcoin2013.com. You can get registered there.
Well, I'm going to unequivocally say that every other war that the United States participated in, the taxpayers and largely the businesses, nobody benefited. I'm only saying that there's a roll of the dice, and an unlikely roll of the dice, like a snake eyes roll or a double sixes roll, that you might actually see the economy of your country benefit from a war. Who benefits from wars? The military-industrial complex, people who make boots, people who make tanks, people that make things that blow into little pieces.